Before John Cena shocked the world by turning heel in 2025, I had the opportunity to wrestle a heel John Cena in 2001 when he was signed to the WWE and sent to Ohio Valley Wrestling. Today I'm going to take you behind the scenes and tell you what it was like to work with a heel John Cena in OVW. And then if you stay till the end, I've got a never before heard story, an incredible story about John Cena, and it includes Vince McMahon. So the wrestling world is on fire talking about the John Cena heel turn at the Elimination Chamber. I woke up that next morning and saw it all over social media. I texted him immediately. When you're in the ring with The Rock and you're in the ring with the WWE champion Cody Rhodes, the face of the company, and everybody on the internet and around the wrestling world is talking about you, you're doing something right. The first time I ever heard the name John Cena was on JR's Ross Report. Good old JR's Ross Report. He was mentioned saying John Cena was a young stud with lots of potential, and he looked like a young Sting. It was a big thing when you were on the Ross Report, because he didn't talk about everybody in the developmental every week, but he might throw a name out there every now and then. So I knew this guy had to be something special for JR to even put him over. It was 2001 when John Cena was signed to a WWE developmental contract. He was sent to Louisville, Kentucky to go to Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was the WWE developmental system at the time. About 2 weeks later, I was at St. Teresa's Gymnasium in Louisville, Kentucky, up in the babyface locker room, lovingly referred to as the Crow's Nest, when I look over and see a new guy, and his legs were enormous. His thighs, his quads were bulging out of his shorts. I go over to introduce myself. He stands up, bleached blonde hair. I go, okay, young Sting, now I get it. He said, hi, I'm John Cena. I said, I'm Nick Densmore. His hands are enormous. He's got big hands. Guys like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Guys like The Big Show. Maybe not as big as The Big Show, but he's got big friggin' hands. Awesomely built. He was about 245 pounds at the time, and I liked him right away. After my match at St. Therese, he didn't wrestle that night. He had just gotten to Louisville. After my match that night, he came up to me and commented on something I did in the ring. It wasn't a move. It was just something a little subtle. I think I took a punch, and I go to sell back, and I hit the second rope and bounced back up. Now, I'd seen Bobby Eaton do this on video many times, but at the time on WWE TV, the Big Boss Man was doing it. And Cena goes, oh, you did the Boss Man off the rope. I said, no. I did the Bobby Eaton off the rope, because I guarantee you the Boss Man got it from Bobby Eaton. We both laughed, and I knew I liked him right away. We were friends from then. Now, in training in OVW, we would often do promo class to work on our promos. And the way we did it is someone would be in the ring and be the one interviewing the superstar. The superstar would come in, and it was the one interviewing the superstar's job to ask them a question, but we never told each other what the questions were beforehand. Sometimes it was, what's your upcoming opponent on OVW TV? Sometimes it was things a little bit outside the box. So one day in training, someone comes up to him, and they were going to stump him. Nobody could ever stump Cena. Said, okay, you're in a four-way Mario Kart match with the Keebler Elf, Strawberry Shortcake, Abraham Lincoln, and your own set of nuts. And Cena goes on to cut a promo on each one of them. Each promo was different. One made you angry, one made you laugh, one was a babyface promo, and it was one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. Now, everybody knows Jim Cornette, but at the time in 2001 in Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky, Cornette was the matchmaker of OVW. He was also the guy that was writing the TV, the booker, and for the most part, he was one of our bosses. Now, the day I knew that he got over with Cornette was when Cornette was interviewing him in the ring. Cena was new to Louisville, new to OVW, just debuted on TV. He first started running down the people of the Southern Indiana and Louisville, Kentucky area because he's a heel. Now, Southern Indiana and Louisville, Kentucky is lovingly referred to as Kentuckiana. So he goes on about Kentuckiana. This isn't a real word. You guys are using made up words. And then he goes, is there an Indiucky somewhere? We all laughed in the back. Then he proceeds to cut the promo on whoever he was wrestling. And then at one point he stops and he goes, looks at Cornette and goes, did you not get that? Let me rewind it for you. And proceeds to go as if he's going in reverse, and then cuts the whole promo exactly the same again. Awesome. Cornette comes to the back, and I could tell Cornette was already in love. And he knew he had money with John Cena. We all knew that. Cena told me later that he stole the rewind from Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura. Shortly after Cena got to OVW and he became one of the main characters on OVW at the live events and at the TV, the fans started calling him Tiny Tim. And at first I didn't know what they were talking about, So someone later told me, oh, he's on the show Manhunt. Manhunt was a one-season reality-style game show. I guess it was filmed in 2000 when he was still in LA. And the premise was the contestants on the game show were out in the wild and running around, and there were people hunting them with paintball guns. And on the show, the hunters are supposed to be mean and rude and be the heels, and the contestants are the baby faces. And he would tell me that, while they're in the game on the set, action, that all the guys were good heels, but then they had safe zones where they could eat and relax for a second and they wouldn't get shot, but the contestants and the hunters would be there, and all the other hunters would just break kayfabe and come over, oh, you guys are doing so good, keep it up, oh my gosh, that's so good. But he said, no, I'm not gonna do that. And he continued to maintain that he was the bad guy throughout all of that, being rude to people, and ended up, he was the top heel on the show. So the season ends, he said he's leaving the parking lot on the last day. He's driving, and one of the contestants, a woman, pulls up next to him, rolls down the window, hawks a big loogie on his window and takes off. He thought that was the greatest thing because he did his job right. He was the ultimate heel. He didn't back down. He didn't break kayfabe. I think John Cena is absolutely a great heel. I think he could have been probably one of the best heels of all time, but the people turned him babyface. That's what they wanted. And I think he is the greatest babyface of all time, tied with Hogan. Now, I know John Cena was a great heel. I wrestled him when he was a heel in OVW. The Prototype, that was his name in OVW. He told me he came up with that name sitting on the toilet one day. Prototype had this bleach blonde hair that he kept growing out the whole time he was in OVW, and it would shave, the sides were short, but this was blonde, and just a great physique, and he called himself the perfect man. He ended up getting, I think, 260 pairs of boots and matching tights. So if he had red and white boots, he would have the red and white tights. But then he started ordering the reverse, the white and red boots with the white and red tights in every color you can imagine. And his idea was to wear those colors, to wear the colors of the pro football team or the pro baseball team in the towns that we wrestled in. Pretty good idea. But he ended up wearing sneakers and jeans. Ha ha. Now, I'm not one to brag, but the Jeffersonville Davis Arena was my building. I mean, I was the top babyface there. I hope that doesn't come off the wrong way, but that's just the facts. The fans were all for Mr. Wrestling Nick Dinsmore, and they hated the Prototype. Now, I will tell you one little behind the scenes thing. Oh, hope I should say this one. I'll go on record saying I don't think Cena has ever taken steroids. Hands down, period. Because when he started wrestling until now, his body hasn't changed. He's gotten a little bit more muscular, but you would think someone would if they've been training for 25 years. He told me that when he first got signed by WWE, they told him to get off the gas, get off the steroids. And he said, I'm not on it. And he took every drug test that they gave him. So he said he wanted to be a superstar so bad, he started starving himself. He's normally about 265 pounds, I think. He starved himself down to 245 pounds when he came to OVW, passing every drug test that they gave him, and finally they go, okay, we believe you. And then he started eating, and he got back to 265, where he's supposed to be. Some guys just have incredible genetics, and he is one of them. He's one of 5 brothers. 4 of them all have very similar genetics, and one looks like a regular dude. But he's definitely a Superman. A few months after I had debuted on WWE Monday Night Raw as Eugene, John Cena was drafted from SmackDown to Monday Night Raw. Now, because he and I have been friends ever since I met him in Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky, we would ride together every weekend. Cena and I were in the car one day, and we were traveling to the next WWE live event. I believe it was in Boston. As we're driving there, Cena asked me, how exactly do you get color? Now, he knew that I'd gotten color because I did it for Triple H. I explained to him how the wrestlers take a pair of scissors and snip off a little piece of a razor blade, and then take a thin strip of athletic tape and tape around one end to get a little handle where a little tiny piece of the blade is sticking out. I explained to him how the wrestlers put it high in the middle of their forehead and give a gentle little poke with the razor to induce blood in your face. I explained to him that we have veins running down this direction, so do it high so you don't hit a vein. And I explained how some of the wrestlers will take aspirin before they do it, so your blood is a little thinner and you bleed a little easier. So he goes out that night, has a great match, phenomenal match, 5-star, gets a little color. Oh my God, I didn't see him make the blade. And I'm gonna give you one little aside here, a little behind the scenes. When I got color for Triple H on Monday Night Raw, Triple H made the blade for me. So I explained to Cena exactly how I saw Triple H do it, leaving just a little bit of razor out. I don't know if Cena left too much out. I don't know where he diced, but it was a gusher. He must have got a vein or took too much aspirin because it was just all over the place. It was like, I don't know, it looked like a bad horror movie because it was just coloring him. It was supposed to be just a little trickle. I don't think Cena had ever gotten color before, and I think we did it on a live event because the WWE office wanted to make sure that Cena could do it, knew how to do it, and was comfortable doing it. And oh my God, did he do it. It just drenched all over him, and he comes back and he just stares at me. Not my fault you cut yourself that deep. So in the spring of 2007, Cena comes to me. We're both on the road with WWE, and asked if I would be interested in working an indie show in Massachusetts, a benefit show. He said he'd already cleared it with the office. I could wrestle. He was going to be on the show, and just wanted to know if I would do it. Of course, I said yes right away. One of John Cena's brothers is a police officer, and this was a benefit show for the local police association. Eugene was there. John Cena was there. John Cena's father was there, who was a heel wrestling manager, Johnny Fabulous, coming out with dollar bills. Cena would always say, John Cena, the junior, would always say that his dad was a second-generation wrestler in reverse, because his dad got into wrestling after Cena got into wrestling. Johnny Fabulous was created, the Money Man was created after John Cena became a WWE superstar, because doesn't everybody want to live out their dream of being a WWE superstar? The main event was Kingpin Brian Malonis with Cherry Payne versus Big Rick Fuller with Johnny Fabulous for the Chaotic Wrestling title, with WWE Champion John Cena as the guest referee. Now at that same time, the storyline on Monday Night Raw was between Cena and Edge. And the live events that we've been doing had been Cena versus Edge with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as special guest referee. So when he asked me to help in the main event match at Triton Regional High School, with him as the special guest referee, we simply took a lot of the spots that we did with the Dragon and subbed him in there. So I knew everything they were going to do in the finish, step by step. And I was sitting backstage on a chair watching on the monitor. Now I need to pause right here because now I need to give you the behind the scenes of how this really got set up. Apparently a week prior, we were in Moline, Illinois. Monday Night Raw was in Moline, Illinois. Cena and I left the building after Raw. We went to the hotel. I made my way upstairs to my room to go to sleep. Cena goes, I'm going to go down to the bar. The bar was empty. I'm going to have a nightcap. Okay, he goes to the bar. I go upstairs. Cena ended up telling me this a few days later. This is what happened. Vince had just left Raw. Vince shows up at the hotel. Vince sees Cena in the bar. Vince decides he's going to go have a drink with Cena. They proceeded to start taking shots of scotch or whiskey or something and just finished the bottle and got completely snookered, hammered, drunk. It was at that point that Vince thought it would be a good idea to double leg take down Cena right there in the empty bar. Vince shoots on his legs, Cena counters, Vince's head hits the bar stool, busted open, blood goes everywhere. Vince sitting in the bar, bleeding all over his face, laughing that unmistakable laugh that he has. Oh, 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 oh. They had to call upstairs to the WWE doctor, Dr. Rios, to come down and stitch up Vince. Do you think that stopped Vince? No! We gotta go on. They continued to drink. Vince goes, Cena, call your dad. No, it's late. I don't need to call him. Call your dad. Cena calls Johnny Fabulous. It's well past midnight. Johnny Fabulous picks up, and Vince just goes on boasting about how good Cena is, and he's just such a good about this and that. And then Vince goes, I'm going to be at that indie show at Triton Regional High School. And Vince is like, Dad, he's drunk. He's not going to show up there. I'll be there. It was the next week, and we knew how busy Vince was, and he wasn't just going to show up at some indie show. Was he? Back to the match. I was sitting in the back watching backstage. They're going into the finish. I knew everything that was going to go on. Boom, 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 bump the ref. And then I saw someone get in the ring. Like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to happen. Who's this? And then I thought, Chaotic Wrestling has gotten a Vince impersonator. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. This guy was out there walking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. And then I did a double hair. I go, no, that is really Vince. And I think all the fans in attendance did the same thing, because at that moment, they erupted. When he first gets in the ring, everybody was quiet, because I think they thought too, like, who's in the ring? And then when he started doing the strut, it was like, Cena ends up giving him the FU or attitude adjuster or whatever we call it. Vince rolls out, scampers away, and he was never seen again at Triton Regional High School. They finished the match in the ring. All was right with the world. I never in a million years would have thought that a billionaire boss would show up at an indie show to get dropped on his head by probably his favorite employee. But I have to say, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And one thing that surprised me was after it happened, there wasn't a whole lot of internet media coverage on it. I figured the internet would have exploded, that Vince shows up at an indie show, gets dropped on his head and leaves. But they were all quiet. Cena told me later that the only people that knew, Cena didn't know at all. I didn't know, he didn't know. The only people that knew were Chaotic owner Jamie, and apparently the heel in the ring, because the heel told Cena to stay down while Vince could come in and they could do their stuff. That's a pretty good kayfabe right there. Apparently Vince and Linda showed up in Boston early, went out to eat, took the limo to where the show was, and waited in the car until the spot was right. Chaotic owner Jamie ushered him in, ushered him out. He was in and out in less than 5 minutes. Shocked the world. Without a doubt, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. If you like this video and you want to see more content from Eugene behind the scenes, click on one of these videos. They are awesome.